Welcome to the Bible Forum. It's Sunday night, November 18, 2018. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about transgender rights and what this all really means. There's a headline this week that said President Trump is reversing Obama's push for transgender rights. Apparently, the problem is that transgenderism seeks to erase any recognition of female and male bodies, both in law and in the culture. So Trump is now the nation's leading champion of women's legal recognition and rights. It's kind of ironic for the feminists, don't you think? So 98 Democrats come along and they sign what is called a pro-gender complaint. In this document, they say it is cruel and unscientific to define a person's legal sex, I would call it gender, but they want to call it sex, by their biology. The Democrats' statement was sent to President Donald Trump's administration after the New York Times reported that the administration will formally clarify that the sex of people involved in sex discrimination legal fights will be based on their male or female body. Complaining to the Department of Health and Human Services, they claim, quote, Trump's biology-determined sex policy, end of quote, makes it clear that members of this administration are willing to solidify an archaic, dogmatic, and alarming view of the world. It is the view of the world that has been held for over 4,000 years. Worked just fine. Without scientific or legal measures to determine gender idea, an entire demographic faces serious, potentially dangerous consequences, they say. The Democrats and transgender advocates want government agencies to let people define their legal sex by declaring their internal feeling of male or female gender identity, regardless of their male or female body and biology. This identity beats biology change would erase any recognition of biological women and biological men from the law. For example, the transgender ideology says the idea of women would include men and women who say they have a female gender identity. Women who insist they are women would be redefined as cisgendered women, C-I-S, cisgendered. That, according to transgender advocates. If gender defines sex, the nation's anti-discrimination laws will force agencies, civic organizations, and cultural groups to bar recognition of the partly different and complementary preferences and attributes of males and females. So, when these people have these problems, transgenderism now becomes the logical conclusion. Well, let's consider the definitions of some other words. How about liberalism? Liberalism, taken to its logical conclusion, apparently weakens our ability to make right choices. The new right weakens the social structure, making everyone dependent. It weakens the economic structure because there's no demand to excel. Liberalism weakens the family. There's no objective authority, no values, no standards. It weakens the culture. Think snowflake generation. It weakens governments because now we have no objective constitutional authority. You see, liberalism is all about removing the hard choices or in this case, the hard and fast rules. Removing authority structures that interfere with creative expression. Why? Because liberalism hates objective standards. No one is supposed to tell anyone else what is right or what to do. Here's an application. An Oklahoma State University head football coach by the name of Mike Gundy blamed a culture of liberalism for players transferring more often now than they used to. This comes from a publication called Deadspin. Gundy was asked his thoughts about why players switch schools more often in the current era. They'll do this during the playing time, the season. And he launched into a thorough condemnation of millennials and of the Generation Z types. He said, we now live in a world where people are non-committal. A world where people can be whatever they want. A world where people don't have to do anything they don't want. A world where young people are given universal options. A world filled with entitlements. They got all of those from the liberals. He says, for example, you tell a young person who finds things a little bit hard to try something else when it used to be try harder. He said, in your job, if the boss gets after you to work harder or be more careful, you go home and tell your mom. And either he or she, the boss, is being unfair or unkind. And mom tells you, oh, it's okay. You don't have to work for people like that. Gundy said, I am a firm believer in the snowflake. He has apparently seen a bunch of them. He said, I think we live in a world where people are non-committal. We allow liberalism to say, hey, I can really just do what I want and I don't have to be really tough and I don't have to fight through it. I don't have to do anything. Doesn't feel good. And he says you see that with young people because it's an option they're given. Who gave it to them? You know, parents, so-called. He said we weren't given that option when we were growing up. Why not? Well, because parents understood what parenting was. They understood values, understood what life was. They understood what it would take. And they knew that children had to get tough or they would die. So what does all this snowflake stuff produce? Well, it's produced a society without absolute standards. It's produced a society without the will to succeed. It's produced a society that can only be expected to do what they want. A society ill-equipped for life the way it is. A society refusing to prepare young people for life. Oh, and they vote when they're motivated to do so. I run into a whole bunch of people who work for businesses in the Charleston area. Primarily Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, mom and pop stores, the low-end stuff, not the big hoity-toity kind of things, but just, you know, businesses that are hiring a number of people all the time. And they all tell the same story. These young people come and they ask for a job, and you give them a job. And when they realize they have to work every day, or they realize they have to work until quitting time, which is 6 or 8 hours down the road, or when they realize they have to actually do stuff they don't like doing or don't want to do, they just don't come back. I had one gal tell me the average was 6 days. The average young person hiring into one of these places, getting paid anywhere from $8 to $12 an hour, lasts about 6 days. Some will last 15, some will last 4. They just don't come back. That's called snowflake. And you wonder where that came from. It came from mom and dad. The moms and dads that are redefining everything in the world, from marriage to family to right and wrong to the form of government that we have, as if they have the knowledge, they have the training, they have the understanding to realize what's a better system. When here in the US of A, we have the best system, not perfect, but it is the best. We got a guy over in France who's the president of France, wants to start another NATO. Get rid of the one that's there and let's start another one that's just European, so that we can be as big and strong and wealthy and powerful as the United States is. They feel it. They know. We got it made. And we got it made because of our values and because of our system. These people want to throw it all out. And they're starting with what is a boy, what is a girl. I'd start with something easier if it was me. But that's the way it works. What about your children? Are they growing up tough and strong? Are they growing up realizing that the world is not perfect, that people will hurt you, that you can work hard and not get ahead, that life's not fair? Do they know any of that? They're going to learn about it. Better to learn it at home.